Have you ever stopped for a quiet moment and noticed how many important things in your life remain unfinished? Not because you lack intelligence, talent, or potential, but because somewhere deep inside, you keep telling yourself that you are not ready yet? You think about speaking English more confidently, starting the business idea that has been living in your mind for months, applying for a better opportunity, changing your habits, or finally becoming the version of yourself you imagine late at night. But then that familiar inner voice appears and whispers, wait a little longer. You need more confidence first. You need to feel stronger, smarter, more prepared. And so you delay, you wait. Days pass, then weeks, then sometimes years, while your dreams remain parked in the distance, not because they were impossible, but because you believed confidence had to come before action. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings in human growth. Most people have been taught, directly or indirectly, that confidence is a prerequisite, something you must possess before stepping into discomfort, before trying, before risking embarrassment. But real life tells a very different story. Confidence is not where transformation begins. Confidence is what grows after you begin. The world often makes it seem as though successful people were simply born with certainty, as if confident speakers, leaders, creators, and achievers entered life fearless and fully prepared. Yet this is rarely true. Behind every powerful voice was once hesitation. Behind every skilled speaker was once awkward silence. Behind every fluent English sentence was once mispronunciation, doubt, and uncomfortable pauses. The difference is not that confident people never felt fear. The difference is that they moved before fear disappeared. They acted while uncertain, and through repetition, their brain slowly gathered evidence that said, I survived. I learned. I improved. I can do this again. That evidence became confidence. Think about your own life. There are things you do today without anxiety that once felt intimidating. Maybe riding a bicycle, typing on a phone, meeting new people, or even expressing yourself in your native language. None of these began with mastery. They began with imperfection. You were clumsy before coordinated, unsure before skilled, nervous before natural. Yet, because you repeated the process, your mind adapted. This is how confidence is built in every area of life, including English, personal growth, career, and relationships. The tragedy for many people is not inability, but misunderstanding. They are waiting for a feeling that only action can create. They stand outside the door of growth saying, once I feel brave, I will enter. Not realizing bravery often appears only after walking through that door. This creates what can be called the confidence gap, the painful space between your actual capability and what you allow yourself to do. It is the distance between knowing and acting, between potential and behavior, between the life you imagine and the life you practice. In this gap, people often underestimate themselves. They assume their fear is proof of incapability, when in reality, fear is often just proof that something matters deeply to them. Consider how this affects English learning. So many people study grammar, memorize vocabulary, watch lessons, and understand far more than they realize. Yet, when the moment comes to actually speak, they freeze. Their heart races. Their mind goes blank. Suddenly, they believe all their knowledge has disappeared. But usually the problem is not lack of ability. The problem is the emotional wall between knowledge and expression. T. Hey, think, what if I sound foolish? What if I make mistakes? What if people judge me? So they stay silent, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have confused discomfort with danger. This same pattern appears in nearly every meaningful pursuit. People wait to feel like a different person before they act differently, when often acting differently is exactly what creates a new identity. If you wait until you feel completely ready, you may spend much of your life waiting. Readiness is often not a feeling, it is a decision. Growth begins when you stop asking, "Do I feel confident enough?" and start asking, "Am I willing to be uncomfortable long enough to grow?" This question changes everything because it shifts your focus from emotion to behavior. Your feelings matter, but they should not always lead. Sometimes your future requires you to move before your emotions fully agree. Every time you speak despite nervousness, practice despite self doubt, or take one small action despite uncertainty, you send a new message to your brain. I am someone who shows up. And that message matters because confidence is not built only by success, it is built by self trust. Self trust is formed when you repeatedly prove to yourself that fear does not automatically control your choices. It is the quiet inner strength that says, even if this feels uncomfortable, I will not abandon myself. This is powerful because life rarely guarantees comfort, but self trust gives you resilience. When you trust yourself, mistakes become less terrifying because failure no longer means personal collapse. It simply becomes feedback. You stop seeing every awkward moment as proof that you should quit, and instead start seeing it as part of the process. This shift is where many people begin reclaiming their potential. They realize they do not need to become fearless before taking action. They simply need to stop worshiping fear as authority. Fear can speak, but it does not have to decide. The truth is, the life you want may often require you to act before you feel transformed. You may need to speak before you feel eloquent, begin before you feel prepared, and try before you feel secure. That is not weakness. That is the birthplace of growth. So, if you have been postponing something meaningful, ask yourself honestly, are you truly incapable? Or have you simply been waiting for confidence to arrive before giving yourself permission to begin? Because the answer could change everything. One of the deepest reasons people remain trapped in the confidence gap is that they misunderstand the true relationship between confidence and trust, often believing they are the same thing when in reality they are profoundly different forces shaping behavior. Confidence is often emotional. It is the temporary feeling that says, I think I can do this. Self trust, however, is much deeper. It is the earned belief that says, even if this is hard, awkward, or uncomfortable, I know I will not abandon myself. And for many people, this is where the real struggle begins. They are not simply lacking confidence, they are living with broken self trust. Every time you promise yourself that you will practice English tomorrow, start your project next week, speak up in class, improve your habits, or finally take a bold step toward your goals, but then repeatedly avoid those actions, your brain quietly records something powerful. My words do not match my behavior. Over time, this creates internal instability. You begin doubting not only your skills, but your own reliability. Then, when life presents an opportunity, whether it is speaking English in front of others, applying for something important, or stepping outside your comfort zone, your fear becomes bigger because the question is no longer just, can I do this? It becomes, can I trust myself not to run away? This is why some people seem highly capable on paper but still feel paralyzed in real life. Their issue is not knowledge, it is fractured self trust. This is especially visible in language learning. Many learners know enough vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation rules to communicate effectively, yet in real conversations they suddenly shrink. Their thoughts become louder than their ability. What if I forget? What if I sound stupid? What if they laugh? These fears are not always about language itself. Often they reflect a larger pattern of self doubt. The person is not merely afraid of making a mistake, they are afraid of emotionally collapsing because they do not fully trust themselves to handle the discomfort of imperfection. This creates avoidance, and avoidance strengthens insecurity. The less you act, the less proof you give yourself. The less proof you have, the more your fear feels justified. It becomes a cycle that silently shapes identity. You begin seeing yourself as someone who hesitates, someone who overthinks, someone who waits. But identity is not fixed. It is built through repeated behavior. This is why one of the most powerful transformations in life begins when you stop obsessing over feeling confident and start rebuilding trust with yourself through small, consistent actions. Imagine promising yourself something small and actually following through. Maybe you speak one sentence in English every day. Maybe you record your voice for 5 minutes. Maybe you ask one question instead of staying silent. These actions may seem minor, but psychologically, they are revolutionary. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, your brain gathers new evidence. I do what I say. This matters more than people realize because self trust grows through consistency, not intensity. You do not need dramatic overnight transformation to rebuild yourself. You need repeated proof that you are reliable. Once this foundation strengthens, confidence naturally begins to rise because your inner world changes. Instead of thinking, I hope I do not fail, you begin thinking, even if this is messy, I trust myself to handle it. That shift changes everything. Another major factor that widens the confidence gap is comparison. Modern life constantly exposes you to polished versions of other people. On social media, in classrooms, at work, and online, you often see people performing at their best. They speak smoothly, present themselves confidently, and appear fearless. But what you are usually seeing is their external performance, not their internal experience. You are comparing your private uncertainty to someone else's public composure. This is deeply misleading. You do not see their nervous rehearsals, failed attempts, or self doubt. You only see the final performance. As a result, your brain creates false conclusions. They are naturally better. I am behind. Something is wrong with me. These thoughts quietly erode courage. Comparison becomes especially dangerous when it convinces you that your beginning should look like someone else's middle. But growth does not work that way. Every skilled speaker, creator, or successful individual was once inexperienced. Every confident person once had moments of insecurity. The polished stage you admire was built on countless imperfect repetitions. When you forget this, you start worshiping other people's outcomes while resenting your own process. This mindset can keep you frozen for years. A healthier perspective is to use others not as proof of your inadequacy, but as evidence of possibility. Instead of asking, why am I not like them yet? Ask, what repeated actions help them grow, and how can I begin my own version? This question restores power because it shifts your focus from self judgment to self development. You stop treating confidence as magic and start seeing it as practice. You also begin understanding that fear itself is not your enemy. Fear is often misunderstood as proof that you are weak, but in many cases, fear simply means that something matters to you. You fear speaking English because connection matters. You fear change because your future matters. You fear failure because your dreams matter. Fear does not automatically mean stop. Sometimes fear means pay attention. Sometimes fear means growth is nearby. The critical difference lies in whether you interpret fear as a wall or a doorway. If you treat fear as a stop sign, your world shrinks. If you treat fear as a signal that you are entering meaningful territory, your world expands. This does not mean recklessness. It means courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement despite fear. And this truth can free you. You do not need to wait until fear disappears to begin becoming the person you want to be. You need to learn that fear can sit in the passenger seat without taking the wheel. When you rebuild self trust, reduce unhealthy comparison, and redefine fear, the confidence gap begins to close. You stop living as someone who endlessly prepares and start becoming someone who participates. That shift is where real transformation begins. Another powerful reason the confidence gap stays so wide in people's lives is because they keep waiting for ideal conditions before they act, as if life will eventually arrange itself into a perfect moment where fear disappears. Mistakes are unlikely, and everything feels smooth and controlled. But real life rarely offers such moments. In reality, most meaningful actions happen in imperfect conditions where you feel slightly unprepared, slightly uncertain, and slightly exposed. Yet, people often imagine that confidence is something that arrives like a final destination, a state where anxiety no longer exists and every step feels effortless. This belief silently delays progress because it creates unrealistic expectations about how growth actually works. Growth is not clean or comfortable. It is often messy, awkward, and uncertain. And yet, it is in exactly those moments of discomfort that confidence begins to form. When you speak, even though your sentence is not perfect, when you try, even though your mind feels blank, when you continue, even though you are unsure, you are not failing. You are training your nervous system to tolerate action under pressure. This is how confidence is built in real time, not before action, but during it. Another reason people struggle with confidence is because they attach success only to perfect outcomes. They believe a conversation is only successful if they speak fluently, that a presentation is only valuable if there are no mistakes, that learning English is only meaningful if they sound like a native speaker. This perfection based thinking creates pressure that is impossible to sustain. It turns every attempt into a test instead of a practice. When every action feels like a test, fear increases because the cost of failure feels too high. But when actions are reframed as practice, everything changes. Practice is allowed to be imperfect. Practice is expected to include mistakes. Practice is where learning lives. Once you shift your identity from performer to learner, you give yourself permission to grow without constant self judgment. This alone can dramatically reduce the confidence gap because now your focus is not on proving yourself, but on improving yourself. In English speaking, this shift is especially important. Many learners stay silent because they believe they must first reach a high level before speaking freely. But speaking is not the reward for learning, it is part of learning. If you wait until you feel perfect, you will delay the very activity that creates fluency. Every word you speak, even incorrectly, contributes to your progress. Every awkward sentence teaches your brain how to adapt. Every moment of hesitation gives you awareness of what to improve next. Confidence grows when you treat communication as exploration, not performance. There is also another silent force that deepens the confidence gap, and that is emotional memory. Your brain remembers moments when you felt embarrassed, judged, or uncertain, and it uses those memories as warnings for future situations. So, when you are about to speak English or take a risk, your mind pulls up old experiences and says, "Remember what happened last time? Let's avoid that feeling." This is not weakness, it is protection. The brain is trying to keep you safe from emotional discomfort. But safety and growth are not always aligned. If you always obey emotional memory, you will repeat old patterns instead of creating new ones. To grow, you must gently override these protective signals by showing your brain new experiences. When you speak and nothing terrible happens, when you make a mistake and survive it, when you feel nervous but still manage, you are updating your internal database. Over time, old memories lose their power because new evidence becomes stronger. This is why courage is not a single decision. It is a series of small updates to your identity. Each action says, the past is not the only possible outcome. Another important realization is that confidence is not about eliminating discomfort, but expanding your tolerance for it. People often think confident individuals do not feel awkward or nervous, but in reality, they simply do not stop when they feel those emotions. They have trained themselves to continue even when discomfort is present. This ability is developed gradually through exposure. The more you engage in situations that challenge you, the more your nervous system learns that discomfort is survivable. And once your brain learns that discomfort is not dangerous, fear begins to lose its intensity. This is why shrinking your actions into smaller steps is so powerful. When the task feels manageable, your resistance decreases. Instead of thinking, I must speak fluently in this conversation, you reduce it to, I will say one sentence. Instead of, I must not make mistakes, you shift to, I will try, even if mistakes happen. Small actions lower emotional resistance, and repeated small actions create long term transformation. This is how people quietly become confident over time, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through consistent exposure to discomfort. Another hidden aspect of confidence is identity reinforcement. Every time you act in alignment with a certain behavior, you reinforce a version of yourself. If you avoid speaking, you reinforce the identity of someone who avoids speaking. If you try despite fear, you reinforce the identity of someone who acts despite fear. Identity is not something you discover, it is something you construct through repetition. This means every small action matters more than it appears. A single sentence spoken in English, a single attempt to express yourself, a single moment of courage, all contribute to reshaping how you see yourself. And once identity begins to shift, confidence becomes a natural consequence rather than a forced effort. You no longer think, can I do this? Instead, you start thinking, this is something I do. That internal shift is one of the most powerful transformations a person can experience because it changes behavior at its root. Ultimately, the confidence gap is not a permanent barrier. It is a space created by hesitation, reinforced by avoidance, and maintained by misunderstanding. But it can be crossed, not by waiting for fear to disappear, but by moving forward while fear is still present. Every imperfect action reduces the gap slightly. Every attempt weakens doubt. Every small step builds self trust. And over time, what once felt impossible becomes normal.